Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, investment analyst, economist, and venture capitalist, Morty Davis is Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical, political, economic, and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on the Republican National Convention and the 2024 presidential race is Len Carter. Len is an investment banker, business consultant, and private investor. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. Carter.
Welcome back to my beloved listeners, participants, actually, in the Voice of Wisdom. I find that you all make an enormous difference because you add to my wisdom, to my education. Even the ones that vehemently disagree with me get me to rethink positions that I was very adamant about. So anybody that adds to my wisdom, even if it's critically, is a big plus for me. That's how you learn the most. You learn the most from your students, from your cohorts on a program like this. So I want to thank you all and welcome you back for another hour of the Voice of Wisdom. And before I get into what inevitably turns out to be, I think, overwhelmingly depressing, because the news and the current events are, even if you're, even in politics, even if your guy is winning, there's so much bad events connected with the process, disappointments and so forth. But even without the negatives of the winner, because the winner is okay. But every news story is features primarily disappointments, because good news is not exciting. You know, if somebody was leading in the polls and suddenly if is found to be way down, that's like somebody is out there crying, or his backers are crying and depressed, and that's not the worst of it. There's negative events like what happened on January 6th, I think it was 2021, with the insurrection that we had. Several policemen, Washington policemen, they covered it, were killed and wounded, and about at this juncture, I think close to 1,000 of the attendees of the so-called tourists. Trump called them
peaceful protesters.
Tourists.
Yes, tourists.
I guess they don't know the difference in Republican talk, the difference between tourists and terrorists. It's easy to confuse them. But they were literally terrorists that were interested in overthrowing a legitimate election, not collection. Whenever you talk about politics and people running, I get hit with at least one letter every 2 days from Biden's people or Trump's people. Trump writes to me as if I'm his best buddy. I was at one time, and says, I'm inviting you to be a member of this special Trump group or Trump club, and just send me whatever you want, And then he lists $10, $50, $100, all the way up to maybe $5,000. So as I tell you every week, the news is depressing and current events are depressing, but that's what we're compelled to discuss because that's the news. And people are interested in the news. Maybe little kids are interested in games or even grown-ups or other activities. But when you're talking about news, whether you turn on TV or magazines or uh, your daily newspaper, that's what you're dealing with. So this week we have, as always, depressing news, depending on where you come from. Once in a while you get good news, but that's not featured, uh, rarely featured. I always say to get on the front page with the New York Times, there's no way to ensure that you can get on because people have given $250 million to a university or to some, you know,
Hospital.
well deserved charity like a hospital or some institution that helps feed the downtrodden, the starving, people in Africa, saving animals. So it's it's impossible to get on the front page. If there's nothing else, and you give no big news on the day you give $500 million, you might make the front page. If you gave it to Harvard or MIT or Mount Sinai Hospital or Northwell. But other than that, the only way to be assured that even if you do murder, because there's murders every day, and even if you do multiple murders, you don't get the front page. There's one sure way to get on, and it's hard, but you can get on that way if you're willing to do this. If you kill a bunch of people, if you're a mass murderer, and the people you murder, you put in your refrigerator or your freezer, and they find that you're eating your victims. That's so newsworthy because it doesn't happen too often, but it probably happens more often than it makes the front page. So that's just getting by that introduction is just to introduce you to my book, Happiness Guaranteed, or Your Misery Back. Not your money back, but your misery back. And the bottom of the page, which is in front of you, the book, it says how to be happy no matter what. And it gives you all kinds of ideas every single day of the year, because it's 365 days. It has humor, it has jokes, and it has ideas about how to deal with life and be not necessarily happy like, you might be on cocaine or fentanyl, but, like pleased, satisfied, content, lifted up by your own behavior uh, or your own goals and aspirations as you're moving towards realization. So that's what this book does. It gives you goals in life that makes you happy. If you're living your life without any goals or without any values that you want to bring to this world, or any good deeds that make other people happy, that put a smile on other people's face, uh, you can't be happy yourself. And you should learn to love yourself because nobody's going to love you like you yourself can if you train yourself to do that. And you love yourself more if you realize you're doing good good things, if you're making your life an example of what life should be if it's lived well. So within that framework, I have to tell you, in Judaism, God gives us assignments, the Jewish people. He says the Jewish nation, despite all the suffering we suffer as peoples, as a nation, as a religion, our instructions are to be a light unto the world, to teach the world how to be a better place. Even there, we fall short, but if we follow God's instructions, we do that. And the instruction really is to change the world and make it a better place for the Jewish people and indeed for all humanity. If you do that, you get a lot of gratification. Without any monetary payback, or sometimes it comes with monetary paybacks, you get even monetary or material rewards. But I'm saying if you learn to do that. So I want to give you one interesting example. Whether you like half the nation, about half the nation doesn't like Joe Biden, our current president, who's not resigning, but says he's going to spend the rest of this year till after the newly elected president comes to serve, to do the best he can to make it a better country, to make it a better world, to help the downtrodden, to help defeat the things that overcome the things that depress us, that hurt us, like inflation or high oil prices or high pharmaceutical and drug costs. So with that intention, he hopes to fulfill some of the joy he would get if he was reelected. But the reason I bring him up is he's a perfect example who, much like Edison, who I mention almost every week, who was asked, how come you never gave up? You failed 1,000 times, over 1,000 times. Some young person asked him, more than one person asked him that question. And he said, who told you that? And he said, the young person, or whoever asked him, even older people, he says, who told you that? And he says, it's common knowledge. Everybody knows that. So he says, they're wrong. I never failed once. So he said, what do you mean? How could you avoid it? If everybody knows it, you clearly did. He says, no. He says, 1,000 times I succeeded in finding out what doesn't work, and I moved closer to my ultimate goal of creating the thing that's been such a great addition to people's lives, such an asset, in that before they had to light a candle and read, if they wanted to read at night, light a candle, jeopardize their lives by a potential fire that the candle would start. And it was something you could share without losing the use of it. You put on a light in your room, and if somebody else is in there, they can read their book without taking anything away from you. So Joe Biden from Delaware was 29 years old, and they were looking for a candidate to run for Senate in Delaware, United States Senate. And I guess the prospect of the Democrat winning that election were not too good, and the Democrats couldn't come up with a candidate. So much like Chuck Schumer said, he was picked because in Brooklyn they couldn't find anybody to run in his district. So they came to him and asked him if he'd run. And he ran for Congress. And remarkably, surprisingly, he won. And now he's number two after the vice president in line for replacing the president. That's how high he's risen in the political scheme of things. So he was 29 and he accepted the appointment to be the U.S. Senator from Delaware. And just as he ran and won the election, and it was like a happy period, surprising. Everybody was congratulating him. The people that appointed him thought they were brilliant in coming up with a solution. His wife, his young child, daughter, and his two sons were in an auto accident. His wife and his baby daughter were killed, and the two sons survived. And he was ready to throw in the towel, but he became so depressed, and as one would expect, and felt it was all worthless, and why would he do? And then finally, as he started to recover a little bit and realized that he's still living, he thought it would be, worth trying to do some good things as a U.S. Senator, and so he decided to take on the role. And throughout life, he's had a sequence of terrible, terrible tragedies. His oldest son, who passed away some years ago from cancer. Did he lose a son in the military? Or one son got badly wounded in the military in Iraq, I think. He's just had a sequence of terrible bad breaks. He was running for president. Here it was not a bad break. It was a bad move on his part. But sadly, he got found out because as he was running for president years ago. I'm surprised it's never been brought up by Trump or any of his adversaries, political adversaries, because he had to drop out of his race. He was doing all right as a candidate, campaigning as a candidate for the Democratic nomination for President of the United States. They found out that the great speech he had made was perjured, was a speech that was made by a member of British Parliament. So there again, he was dealt, in that case, justifiably, a bad outcome. So he's had just horrible life, but he never ever gave up. There was almost zero chance of his ever becoming president or even vice president. He was serving as a senator for maybe 30 years or longer, more. He was first elected, I think, in 78 or something. Yeah, something like 1978. And he was finally chosen by Obama to be his vice presidential candidate choice. And as Obama won, he became vice president. But that still was a long way from being president. You just serve as a helper, as an assistant, as an aide. You don't get the power or the glory. But he wound up on top, and even when he ran directly for president in 2020, he got beat in Iowa, he got beat in New Hampshire. He was dead as any candidate ever was. And he got a backing from the senator from
South Carolina.
Dakota,
South Carolina turned
sorry,
around. Yep.
South Carolina.
That was it.
What's his name?
And I saw him, I was watching him on news the other day. Yeah. That turned the corner for him.
Yeah, and he won.
Yeah.
The odds of his winning were like, the odds of Hillary winning in 2016 were so much that some of the British bookies paid off in advance, a few days in advance, because they thought she was a shoo-in. All the polls showed it. So, you stick to your guns, and you never know, good things could happen. So I'm telling you, have a goal in life and work towards that goal, and that'll give you a purpose in life. Without a purpose in life and without doing good things for others, if you're just busy doing the good things for yourself, you get rich and you buy a yacht and you buy a private plane and you buy a mansion. Temporarily you feel good, you feel excited. That's not true happiness. When you fund a school and you see the kids that couldn't pay tuition and they're graduating and going on to colleges. And one fellow I funded went up to Harlem one time and gave a speech, and then he said that very few of the kids were getting into college because they couldn't pay for a decent college. He started something. He said, any kid that graduates with a B average or better, I'm going to pay his college tuition. He can apply to the best colleges or to all the colleges. And he called it I Have a Dream. That organization still exists. His last name was Lang. But anyway, he got such joy out of that. There's nothing equal an airplane, a boat, maybe a beautiful wife. Even a beautiful wife could give you more aggravation than a wonderful wife, maybe. Anyway, so keep that in mind and work towards a goal. Also, keep in mind, because there's a lot of goals I wanted to work for, but you should do it within reality. In other words, don't go beyond what your capacity is. If you're crippled, born with some shorter leg or something, or whatever, don't try to be the winning athlete in the marathon at the Olympics. That's not realistic. But like in my case, I wanted to be like Elvis Presley or Frank Sinatra. My father once even hired a cantor to teach me how to sing in the hope that I'd be more musical and so forth. The cantor came after my father paid him for 2 visits, and the cantor was eager to have the payments. He came to my father and he said, I want to tell you, Mr. Davis, at that time it was Mr. Davidowitz, save your money. It's totally hopeless. And he was doing a good service for my father and for me, because I get paid to keep quiet. Nobody wants to hear me sing. So make sure it's within your potential, but then go for it. Your potential to do good for all of us. Even, what was her name, Kelly, who was blind and deaf and...
Helen Keller.
What?
Helen Keller.
Helen Keller was able to do good. She was able to do God's work by making other blind people and other deaf people happy, by inspiring them, giving them the hope that they too could use whatever is left of their speech or hearing or visual capacity or substitute. So go to it, and that'll make you happy. But if you want the help along the way, every single day, get a copy of Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back. I give away all the money to charity that I collect from I don't need the money from the books. Thank God I did very well in life. And not only that, because I want you to have it, I love you. As I tell you every week, my cohorts in this podcast, my partners in crime, about my partners in this delivery.
Accomplices.
And my accomplices. Thank you. I told you, Len, I love to have Len on. He's a genius like me.
Accessories after the fact.
Right. So anyway, like me, he graduated from the best, what is deemed to be the best business school in the United States, Harvard Business School. Like me, he graduated at the top of his class. I graduated with distinction. That's the top of your class. He graduated with distinction after he got a degree at one of the great colleges, an Ivy League college called Cornell. He got a degree in electrical engineering. And then before he came to Harvard Business School, he went on to another fabulous school, one of the best in the United States, Stanford University in California, and got an advanced degree in engineering. And he's really brilliant, and I love having him on. Even though he's so brilliant, he's always knocking down my best arguments and criticizing me and so forth. But like I said, criticism, if it's well meant and if it's presented in a non-hostile way, is really very beneficial. So I want to tell you before I use a whole hour to prevent you from listening to this week's terrible deal.
A little more and you will have accomplished the goal.
Right. I won't even let my premier guest, my prime guest, my beloved guest, Len Carter, get a word in edgewise. So I want to tell you how sure I am that you love this book and it'll benefit you. But in the event you don't, like they do on television, only better than that, if they want you to try some pharmaceutical or some supplement, they tell you it's definitely going to cure your fungus or your headaches or whatever's bothering you, your itching, whatever. They say, just get this, and if it doesn't work, if you're not happy with it, send back the empty jar, or you can even keep the rest of the drugs, even if you use them all up, and send us your purchase slip, and we'll repay what your purchase price was. So that's great, and it induces people to try different things. In many cases, it does help them. In some cases, it doesn't, but they don't have the time or the inclination to send it anyway, so it's a good marketing ploy. But with this book, I've had such good feedback, and people have received it as gifts from major corporation heads or from loved ones, and they bought it, and they heard me give this, although if they got it as a gift, I don't know how to get a purchase slip. I guess if they stand next to the counter and somebody buys it and they ask them for the purchase slip, they may get it. But I will not only return your purchase price, I will return double your purchase price. So don't hesitate to go out and get this book. And if you don't enjoy it, love it, benefit from it, I promise you, without any questions, just call me or send me a note, and I'll get right back to you with a check for the amount that you. But don't send me the 400 purchase slips so you could double the amount that you paid for all 400. Anyway, without further ado, let me get Len Carter on for the interesting events of this week that we should discuss, that you may be interested in learning about or hearing.
It certainly has been an interesting week. We saw
With Trump, it's always,
yes,
whether you like him or not,
this is an election
ever since
cycle.
he's got in,
Election cycles
it's
are always
never been
interesting,
boring.
but
No,
this one even
Trump,
more interesting.
every day I get up with a new newsworthy surprise.
Yep.
I figured what else could happen.
And usually, at least it has been limited to the weekdays. But this past, we had it over the weekend too, where the president decided.
Over the weekend too.
Yeah.
He says things that aggravate people, that offend people that even of his own party that have the audacity to run against him, or even people in his own staff, his own cabinet, that don't pay proper homage to him, that don't kiss his ring. He could abuse them and has. So go ahead.
Yeah. So we have seen a lot of interesting events over the last week. The winding down of the Republican National Convention, and then the decision, the unprecedented decision of a sitting president who began a campaign and then to end it very close to the convention and the election. Even Lyndon Johnson, who announced his intention not to seek re-election, happened earlier in the cycle when Humphrey came in, and there was a lot of other candidates, and they had an open convention, and it was a whole
Well,
big
but
thing.
in his case, in Johnson's case, as well as in Biden's case, even though the Republicans and Trump and all his followers are urging or screaming that Biden should resign now, that is no longer, that is really, what do they call it, when you're in your last year? I forget.
Twilight?
No.
Sunset years?
No, you're a president without power.
Lame duck.
It's a good thing, lame duck can hardly run.
Yeah.
So he can't do anything. But Biden has said he's staying gone for now, I guess it's about 6 months till the new president comes on.
In LBJ's case, though, I'm not a student of that era of history, but were there calls within his party for him not to run the way there have been for Biden? Or because I thought it was really a surprise when he announced he wasn't going to do it.
There was a lot of upheaval
because of the war.
Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And also, they say he was, without the nation knowing it, without the people knowing it, that he was very sick. His wife said she looked at him and she couldn't take it. That's what his wife said.
But did it turn out that way? I don't think so.
I don't know. You could be very sick.
Because he didn't die. He died many years later. It wasn't like he had some illness.
Well, maybe the pressure of the job.
So this is really, in that regard, kind of unprecedented, that you had pressure from within a party forcing out.
Well, Truman also resigned.
Yeah.
He was a shoo-in to win. He wasn't a shoo-in to win the first time against Dewey.
Yeah.
Because Dewey.
In fact, if you look at the news headlines, Dewey did win.
The Daily News came out that night, the same night, election night, and said Dewey is president.
That's a classic case in why polls are not always right.
Trump was great. Trump went to sleep. He didn't stay up. I was up all night listening to the returns, and it sounded. I'll tell you something interesting. I belonged to a group. We met at a pool room. We were pool players, billiards. And the night of the election, we met. And one of the guys, his name was Polivoy was his last name. So he wanted to bet that that Trump would win. And everybody said, you're out of your mind. So they said, we'll take your bet. So he bet them all. He thought he was a genius. It turns out that there's one place in Rhode Island or Vermont that votes early, votes the night before.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have what they have today, mail-in and pre-election. Everybody
early voting, yeah.
All the election took place
on the
election day. So he heard the returns from that town. There were like 12 voters. I mean, it's like a nothing town. And Dewey had won like 11-4 or something, 11-5. So he heard that. He thought he had inside information, and he bet. It was the stupidest bet because it was indicative of nothing. If polls don't tell anything, this is not a poll. But anyway, so it shows you.
Got lucky.
You got stupid.
So he collected up from all his other billiard players.
Right. We were stupid.
It beats playing 8-ball, I guess.
No, but we were stupid. After we all said how stupid that night, and afterwards we said, even though he won, he was still an idiot.
Yeah. So,
but Trump resigned because his wife, Bess,
Truman.
Bess Truman.
You said Trump. You mean Truman?
Truman.
Yeah.
Truman, Trump. It's almost the same.
Trump. So the wife didn't want him to run?
She asked him not to run again.
Why?
She wanted to return to where was he from? Missouri.
Yeah.
So he accommodated his wife.
But it was early in the cycle, right? I mean, they were in time for other candidates to come in. Yeah. This is, quite an unusual thing where you have such a late.
But it's very unusual for a guy who's the winner and serves one term and has good prospects to be reelected.
Yeah, I mean, when does an incumbent not run again? Unless they're killed. Very rarely. Like you said, I mean, this was only...
Everybody. I mean, Carter.
Right. They all try.
What's his name?
Some of them don't.
Bush
some of them don't do it, but they all try.
Obama.
Yeah.
I don't know who didn't. Who hasn't?
Yeah. No, I mean, not in recent history.
Trump didn't, even though he won in 2020.
So we'll let's evaluate. We'll talk about the RNC for a second. One of the things you hear over and over is how well orchestrated the convention was in terms of
how civil it was.
Right. I mean, there were a few, at least in the beginning, there was a more civil tone of coming off the assassination attempt of the weekend before, but it didn't last too long because by the time it ended, you had Don Jr. or Eric, one of those, given pretty fiery.
For the magma and for Trump,
it was calm.
It was a very calm.
Yeah,
it wasn't like I think during Johnson's period. I don't know if that's the one.
The 60s.
What do you call it?
There was like riots.
In Chicago.
Yeah, that was it. They had to call in the police. They had to call in the police. That was the one. Dan Rather was a lot of he got beat up and pushed to the ground, and that was an crazy convention.
Very angry nation.
Yeah.
Because people were drafted.
Yeah.
to fight in the
Yeah,
Vietnam
yeah,
War.
yeah. Um, but one thing that it shows is, I think, the importance of party unity. It's one thing, and yes, you need votes, but to get those votes, you see how important the unity is, and the Republicans certainly get high marks in terms of unity. I mean, you saw former serious adversaries coming together in support. Like, Nikki Haley, um, not too many months prior, was up there saying,
Yeah.
Trump's a terrible, is not fit to be president. They all said that.
The only one that didn't come back, it was Pence, his vice president.
Yep. Probably he didn't get an invitation. But you'd almost think that
No, but almost everybody who spoke critically of him,
Yep.
critically is a nice way of saying, who said he sucks and he's this and he's worse and he's not fit to be president. Every one of them have come back. DeSantis and Vance, who was appointed at this convention as the vice president.
He was critical
Terribly.
in the past.
He
Yep.
said unfit to be president. DeSantis, the governor of Florida, backs him. There's almost, I can't think of anybody that, even Barr, who was very critical.
100%. He was on a few weeks back or a couple months back. He had an interview with Caitlin Collins and CNN, and
And
he said he's
backing.
supporting President Trump. I mean, she was sort of stunned. She asked him, but you were someone who saw what happened, and if anyone would appreciate rule of law, it would be an attorney general of the, the country.
It shows you how
And
Trump respects adherence.
loyalty.
Wants people
Yep.
to kiss his ring, because Vance was so nasty in his comments after not 9/11, after January 6th, and for a long time afterwards. And this week, he said at the convention that if he was the vice president, he would have stopped the vote. What do you call it?
The electoral vote count.
Yeah, he wouldn't. He would have listened to the president, unlike Pence. In other words, he said, I would have violated the Constitution. They'll do anything for Trump.
So you see how important party unity is, and even now, how in just the short time after President Biden announces not running again, how important it is for the party elders and leaders to come
But I'm not sure that proves the point. What did they say? The exception proves the point. One of the reasons he pulled out was the enormous reversal of all the people. Unlike Trump, all the top people, Pelosi, Schumer, just about everybody, said he should resign.
Yeah.
So that was,
But now they're all coming around her.
that.
Around
No, but
Harris.
I'm saying not as. But he didn't leave by saying I got up this morning and I decided to leave. Unlike Truman,
who just got up after his wife told him to leave.
Yeah.
he listened to the important one, not the other party leaders, the real leader.
Yeah, they asked a bunch of men in in heaven after they died. So they ask them to line up. So they say all those men who are henpecked on line A, and all those that are non-henpecked on line. Henpecked means whatever your wife says, you do. She'll say, bend down and lick my shoes, and you'll do it. So there's an enormous line of those that are henpecked, and there's one guy in the line that's non-henpecked. So they walk up to him. They said, Jesus, you're amazing. Every other guy here was henpecked. You're on this line. How come you're on this line? He says, I don't know. My wife said, go get on that line, son. So
Very true. So
there was a lot of pressure on him to resign. And not only that, they kept saying, you're going to lose if you run. So when they hear the word lose, that's enough to drive him out. He didn't want to leave.
Are they doing? So they didn't want to lose, but do they want to win? And is what they're doing now the right move to win?
Right now, they feel like they're going to win.
You think? But that's what they're saying. That's what the party is saying.
I thought
is that
because
because I don't think so.
I thought Trump would be elated to have Kamala Harris be his opponent because she's a lesser star than Biden.
Mm.
But it turns out that as soon as Biden resigned and endorsed her, she's gotten every single major Republican back.
I think if you were Trump and you could pick anyone to run against, it would be Biden at this point.
Yeah, no,
because of
sure.
just how terrible the polls are.
He was looking forward to the next debate.
Right. Well, right. So that's why they're not elated that he's now likely facing Kamala Harris, but he's not so distraught because
I think
still
they are. I think this discombobulated because
You think he's worried?
Democrat, yes, every Democrat has supported her.
But that support of leaders doesn't get you.
No, but right after she was she hasn't been crowned yet. What's the other word?
Coronated,
anointed.
Yeah.
I told you he's brilliant. She hasn't been coronated or anointed yet.
I'm sure they don't like that term because it makes it look like. That's why she came out and said, "I will earn the nomination."
And that was smart of her.
Yeah.
So even though she wasn't, the amount of contributions of donors of campaign contributions that came in were remarkable and indicated that she has a strong following amongst the Democrats. And in this country, the Democrats the Republicans haven't won a majority of the vote.
Popular vote,
The popular vote.
But
since back to Reagan. Not one of them has won the popular vote.
Bush Sr. maybe.
No, he didn't.
I mean, Bush Jr. the second time, I think.
Oh, maybe the second
First time, no, but maybe the second time.
But
the question is, it's not so much what party leaders do. And they've been coalescing around her, which is not good for Trump because unity is not a good thing. He loved the chaos. He loved when the party was infighting. Nothing could be. They're doing his work for him. What could be better than your opponent fighting amongst itself, the
Yeah.
party? But once that stopped and turned the other way into coalescence, that is not good. But they aren't the ones electing the president. The voters are. And so the question becomes, how will this change in the ticket translate into change of support for Democrats? And that's where I don't think it's going to make much of a difference, because I think, yes, the polls showed Trump vastly, handedly beating Biden, but they still show him, ahead of Kamala Harris, and in the among voter groups which Trump has been able to siphon off, like in particular white men and union workers, which historically have never been Republicans, but Trump has managed to have a strong appeal to white union workers and white workers, and they don't
than traditionally.
Yeah,
Democrats still get it.
Yeah, but in the swing states, and when elections like this on the margin, that can make a huge difference, and that's a big group. People.
Yeah, but I don't know, Len, if you were as surprised as I was, because I expected that when that happened, I expected in general, after the convention, Republican convention, and Trump getting shot, that he would, even before Biden pulled out, that he would have a big bounce, at least till the Democrats had a chance at their own party convention. So now that I see the numbers, I thought, especially against Carmelo, I thought he'd be up by 20 points or more. She's even with him, and she's like, up to then she was nobody. She was the vice president, but I don't know that she made a great impression. All I ever remember her doing is giggling.
Yeah, well, that's the
so
point.
And also, even then, when he was shot, so he said he had a humdinger of a speech prepared for the convention, but he's not going to do it. He's going to do one that's on unity.
That lasted 20 minutes.
Unity,
and
unity.
The next hour and 10 minutes.
I don't know what
not about unity.
I don't know if he knows what the word unity means. What unity?
But the question, I mean, if you're talking about winning, is she? If all you cared about was winning, is that the right move? I mean, there's, given her lack of appeal with the important white workers,
I thought
and
not,
and suburban women who she's not super. I mean, she's they say she's better with the African American contingent, and she's better with some younger voters. So that is important because it's all about voting, and that's how Obama got elected. Is he got people to vote?
I thought not. I thought, I didn't think she was even being considered. I thought maybe he should resign so she could be president, and then she got a better launching pad. But I didn't think she was up as a first
Right.
choice or anywhere near
But
first
you didn't
choice.
think that for a reason, like because if you had a pick, if you were the party leaders,
Yeah.
you wouldn't pick who would you
No,
pick?
I didn't. One of the reasons I didn't think they would want him to resign was there's no natural replacement for
I don't know. I
Biden.
mean, you could.
Biden to me was the best opponent
You think
that the
you
Democrats could put up.
you know? I mean, Trump versus Josh Shapiro or Trump versus Andy Brashear or any of these guys.
None of them.
But it's a right now. But that's just
No,
because of
no,
they're not known
no,
yet. You don't think
no.
they could do a marketing
Well,
campaign
they're right now.
on Josh Shapiro to get him
Right
to
now they're just names. The governor, they're not,
right?
sophisticated like the.
Would you rather have just a name, or
So
would you rather have somebody who's disliked? Why start from a hole?
I didn't know anybody that could replace Biden that could beat Trump. That was my feeling. And now I'm finding out that by coincidence, she happens to be the most popular and the most known because she brings in the black vote. If they replaced, if they replaced any of the Biden with any of those that you mentioned, all of whom are white, they'd lose an enormous amount of black
Why?
votes.
Who are they going to vote for? Trump?
They'd
Or just sit out?
They'd sit out or they'd vote for Trump. They'd be so pissed
Yeah.
off because they're so proud. You got to listen
Well,
to. You got to
no,
listen
that's a
to.
good point. I mean, we do have a
You
lot
got to
of
listen to
identity
what.
politics.
No, but you got to listen to what's his name. Incidentally, he's matured. I have a lot of respect for him. The He's on CNBC. The what do they call him? Not the priest. Who's the guy who's got this organization, but he's a religious leader, black leader. He was in big scandals early on. He said some white guy raped some young girl.
Al
And then
Sharpton,
Al Sharpton. And also,
Tawani Brawley,
yeah, you got a great memory.
but
And also,
MSNBC he's on.
what?
MSNBC.
Emerson. Did I say
You said CM. That's why I didn't know who.
Emerson?
Yeah. You
And
think
also, also, he made
he's
a
not
big.
as over the wall as he used to be, but
No,
he's calmed
he's
down
very
a lot.
intelligent.
He's a lot skinnier than he
He's
used to
very
be, too.
intelligent. He makes good points. He's kind of normal, It's not vicious. It's not. He stands up for any black that gets
Yeah.
killed by a cop.
Right.
He's there for the families. He's there,
Right.
And right away the cops are wrong.
Right.
But it's very.
So what was he
He's
saying?
mature. No, because also at one point in Harlem, he was criticizing the Jewish storekeepers that take
Right.
advantage of the
Right.
uneducated population,
Right.
less educated population. So he's matured. I give him credit for that. Takes a lot to.
Yeah, I mean, Tawani Brawley was in the 80s, 70s. Yeah, it was
Oh,
a long time ago. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying
So what's he saying?
he's grown.
He's
No,
saying
he's a good
Kamala Harris is good because
he's good
she'll
in-
get
no.
the vote out.
No, he loves her, and every black. So if they
Yeah, but
took her off, this is the biggest thing. That this is the highest position, other than Obama,
yeah, but
that any black had, and it's the highest
there's still
than any black woman
but
had.
blacks still, 80%, 90% still vote Democratic, whoever that may be.
They wouldn't.
You think they would just sit out?
They would be angry and vote against whoever, or they'd sit out. One or the other.
I don't think they'll vote for Trump. Maybe sit out, but
A lot of them have switched to Trump already.
Well, not a lot. I mean, it's still.
I never saw so many up on the stage.
That's because they put them, of course, to make it look like. But I mean, statistically,
I don't think
they.
anybody other than Carmela would bring in the 90% black vote. And also the Jewish vote used to be, the Jewish vote is pretty close to the black vote for Democrats, like 85
percentages, yeah.
You'd think that what's going to happen with Netanyahu coming here to meet with Biden, and he's going to meet with Carmela too, and then he's speaking before Congress, but a lot of Democrats said they're not going to, especially the Squad and the very liberal left wing, said they're not going to attend. It's like happened with Obama.
Yeah.
He came to talk to Congress when Obama was in power, and almost no Democrats showed up, and the Republicans cheered. So what other aggravation stuff have you got on your?
Yeah, we are close to being out of time, but I'll ask the question we've wrapped things up with the last few times. Each time, same question, but we're coming from a completely different context and completely different set of events to base the answer on. But who do you think is going to be the next president? A week ago, it was a lot different. I mean, same question, but the context was a lot different.
I think that no party has won it since 2016. They've lost it. Hillary lost it because of that guy Comey coming on. She was a shoo-in, there was no. They left, he came down the steps and he's running for president.
And Trump lost because of what? COVID?
No, Trump lost because of he lost the women's vote. Women are more than half the electorate. Abortion.
That wasn't in 2020.
Yes.
No, it wasn't. Roe v. Wade was overturned after Trump went out of office.
After
Trump left off. After Trump appointed the 3 justices during his term, but they didn't overturn Roe v. Wade until after Trump was out of office.
Yeah, but because of
no one guys. Yeah, but nobody. It wasn't the 2022 elections.
The women knew which was the presidential election.
2020.
Yeah,
they knew that Roe v. Wade was going to be overturned. You didn't know until it was overturned, which wasn't until 2020.
I thought
2021.
I thought the women came out.
2022 they came out after 20. Trump leaves office. Trump loses the election in 2020. Then in 2021, early in Biden's term, when the new Supreme Court convenes, they overturn Roe v. Wade in 2021 or early 2022. Maybe it was 2022. But then in the midterm elections, that's when there was a lot of movement because of the women's issue.
I predicted.
But in 2020, that wasn't really an issue.
I'm telling you, I'm one of the few people that predicted that Biden would win. If it was 20, then it was 20, based on Roe Wade.
But Roe versus Wade wasn't overturned yet.
I'm saying, but somehow it was an issue because the Republicans won it for the Democrats. The women were there.
Okay, so how does that, using that lens, how does that apply in this election cycle?
Still applies.
But which way? Who's going to lose it?
the women are going to vote against the Republicans.
So same.
What's
So
his name? Vance is against all all
he wants a federal ban.
all what do you call it? All abortions, including rape, incest, and up to the even the only thing he says, maybe he would have a different view. He doesn't say he would in the event of the
Mother's life.
mother's death,
Life.
the danger.
Danger. So, and then not even a window of abortion. None from day one, day zero.
Zero.
Not even 6 weeks or whatever,
No,
like you have in Florida. Zero.
He's worse than, much worse than Trump.
Yeah.
Trump is just saying let every state.
So
let
the polls don't have it right.
Trump
then.
is saying let every state.
Right.
Yeah, no, I believe. There's always inflation, the economy, all kind of different things that they list that's going to influence. But I don't know of anything as strong a motivation as anti, what do you call it, ban on abortion. And I believe that's still going to dominate. You think women have forgotten that?
No, but I think the narrative on the Republican side has adapted to that issue by saying,
let the states.
What could be more democratic than letting the states decide what they want to do on this issue?
But the women understand that. That's bullshit.
Well, I mean, so far it hasn't been, because the states have, some certain states have had referendum, and, in states you wouldn't think that they would pass. It's passed.
Yeah. But that shows you how strong.
Yes, but it also shows the argument that, you see, we're okay with that as Republicans. Until they start coming out and saying we want a federal ban, and Trump is saying I don't want a federal ban. So where's the problem?
Women understand that it's a process, that they didn't turn it all in one day. But the ones in the states that want to leave in other states, they prosecute the doctors. The doctors are afraid to give it an abortion.
But again, their argument would be
that's
what the voters vote that. So what could be more democratic than voters voting?
Inflation is definitely a factor. A lot of things are factors, but nothing to me in my lifetime has ever been a single issue that's.
But for of the women for whom that's an issue, I think, or the people, men and women, for whom abortion is an issue, a real issue, I think is a smaller group than for whom prices are an issue. Because everyone, men, women, old, young, whatever, are all affected by prices.
I agree that they're all affected, but I don't think it's as intense a feeling that it motivates them to vote a certain way. And they what do you call it? The argument against the inflation is, if that's an issue that Biden or the Democrats are responsible, why has every other country got inflation and higher inflation than we have? So,
I mean, that's a valid and powerful economic argument. Unfortunately, to a lot of people, it's like, I don't care what's going on in Germany. I care what's going on at the shop right down the street.
I'm just telling you, in my view, that's not as strong. As a matter of fact, I think a stronger motivation for the Republicans is immigration, much stronger than inflation for the Republicans. They're taking their jobs, they're coming. They're coming, they're changing the country. They won't even express it, that they're taking over the country. Economists say we need them. The crops won't get picked if we don't have Americans that are willing to do
It's
the
not just
job.
crops; it's a lot of,
Yeah, what do you mean?
restaurant
Construction,
workers or a lot of people. Yeah, there's a lot of lower paying
Yeah.
jobs, which a lot of
No, I'm
people
just
don't want.
mentioning
Yeah,
because California
right. But there's a lot.
farmers,
Every
California.
state has jobs that.
Yeah, no, and also the way they define it, every day.
Well,
Killers are
right. That's when
mental
where Trump
cases are
said they're
coming
letting
in.
in Hannibal Lecter into the country.
What's Hannibal?
Hannibal Lecter is the character in the movie Silence of the Lambs who was a cannibal.
Was that a good movie?
Very good movie, yeah. And
the
so,
name didn't apply.
It's like a crazy that was not on the teleprompter. You could tell that's Trump. The first 20 minutes, subdued, talking about unity. Everyone's president. There's no winning in being president for half the country if the other half. All that was on teleprompter. Then we go off the teleprompter and we have
even what do you call it? Even in the hierarchy,
Anthony Hopkins.
Even in the
plays
hierarchy of the list of things that people vote on, like in the Democratic Party, one of the issues is voting rights. Somebody asked me legitimately, and I didn't have a good answer for them. They say, "Why are you against people that vote be required to have an ID?"
Yeah.
So I said, it's hard for them to get it. But
I think they should.
I think they should too. But still,
but having an ID is different from
but right now
not having.
Now there's no strong vote influence.
Yeah, I mean that's a valid point. That doesn't mean there's fraud, though. Right? That's the one of the arguments, that there was voter fraud in 2020 is that, well, they don't ask for ID, therefore there's voter fraud. Not true. I mean, it's not. There's not voter fraud unless there's evidence of voter fraud. I mean, just because you don't ask people for IDs, and that means there could be because but I think if
the ones that don't have
it probably doesn't look. When I go to vote, they say, "Who are you?"
Right.
And they say, "Where do you live?"
Right.
I give them my name and my address. They look in the book.
Right.
I write my name. Now, I ask, "Don't you want?" I even ask, "Don't you want ID?" No, we don't take it. It's not required.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So, but then how would fraud have to occur? Someone behind me would have to come in and say, "I'm Len Carter, and I live at the same house as Len Carter." What would they do? They'd open the book and say, "Wait a minute, he's already registered. He already came here. So how is there fraud?"
I think that's a non-issue.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, how is there fraud?
It's a Republican statement,
I mean, it still isn't a bad idea to have ID check, but I'm not sure it really leads to fraud. It doesn't.
My view is anybody that doesn't have an ID is probably not voting. Because it doesn't take much to get an ID. You go to the...
Well, it's just they don't require it.
I'm not talking about requiring that. I'm saying it's an easy thing to get. If you want to do something about a credit card or a bank account, it's an easy thing to get. It's not hard to get. Those people are so lazy that they're not voting. So I don't think, but I'm saying there are a list of issues that you could say, but they're not dominant. There's one that's dominant, and that's the guns. Guns are dominant. They're going to take away your gun. Dove has a gun. I tell him, "You're crazy." I said, if somebody comes and robs my house and they're in my bedroom, I'll be the most courteous. I'll say, "Here's my wallet, here's my money." I'll open my safe for them. I just want them out as fast as they can. If I pull a gun, the odds are they're going to kill me or kill some. You're increasing the potential for a very bad outcome. So he says it's for safety. I wonder how many people are saved by having a gun.
All
Hey,
right.
they say even police
Yeah.
who take training and learn how to shoot
Don't always
and
hit.
don't always hit, rarely hit,
Yeah.
rarely.
All right. With that said,
God
we
bless
have
you, Len
another
Carter,
week to
for
contemplate
your
and
contribution.
reconvene in the next
Right.
week for
And
another
God bless you
uplifting
all.
experience.
God bless you all who tuned in or stayed tuned in for part of the session. I love you all. I look forward to being with you again, 6:30 next Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Have a wonderful day, every day of your life till you're 120. Then we'll negotiate for more. And each day of your life should be better than the day before. And if you want that result, get yourself this book. As I told you, double your money back if you're unhappy. You won't be unhappy, but
Please subscribe.
it's one way for you to make a few dollars.
Please subscribe.
There's nothing to subscribe to.
Please subscribe.
There's nothing to subscribe to. All they got to do is go on Amazon or the local
Your show.
bookstore. Yeah, they could buy it directly from me. I'll sell it to them at a discount.
Yeah.
All right.
God bless you all. Have a great week. Bye.
Thank you.